The story begins with Chihiro and friends chatting with Ichikawa about his injured arm. Chihiro mentions that Yamada already filled them in about Ichikawa's tumble on a snowy mountain in Akita. Just then, Adachi steps in, clearly annoyed by the attention Ichikawa is getting, especially from the girls. He snarkily tells Ichikawa not to get too full of himself just because he's hurt. Meanwhile, Ichikawa's popularity takes a hit when the girls spot his keychain. As they're leaving, Yamada leans in to whisper to Ichikawa, telling him he can come to her for help if he ever needs it. Right at that moment, Hara catches a glimpse of their exchange and notices Ichikawa's keychain, which matches Yamada's. He starts thinking there might be something romantic brewing between them. Later, Ichikawa talks with his teacher, who's concerned about his arm. The teacher suggests Ichikawa could use some help in class and with his injury, offering to pair him with a classmate. He thinks Yamada would be perfect for the job, assuming she and Ichikawa are close. But Ichikawa quickly shuts that idea down, saying they don't really talk much. He reassures his teacher that he's fine and will find someone else in class to help him. When he walks into class, he finds Yamada there, who has overheard the entire conversation. She looks pretty upset, leaving Ichikawa feeling panicked. He realizes he might have just ruined his chance to get closer to her by his careless words. Chihiro is at his desk struggling to take notes with his left hand due to his injury. He thinks he'll need someone's help to get a copy of today's notes. Yamada notices his trouble but leaves the classroom without saying anything. Soon, Adachi walks in and hands Chihiro the notes, explaining that Yamada asked him to do this favor. Adachi even mentions that Yamada called Chihiro kind and cool, hinting that she might like him. Ichikawa, feeling a bit threatened, glares at Adachi, making him back off. Later, after school, Chihiro talks to Yamada about what he said to their teacher. He apologizes, saying he didn't want to trouble her, which is why he said they weren't close. But he confesses that he would like to rely on her if he ever really needs help. Yamada smiles at this, saying she knew it all along, which makes Chihiro shyly cover his face. As they walk home, Yamada offers to carry Chihiro's bag. At first, he refuses, worrying it's too heavy for her. But he changes his mind, not wanting to upset her. After handing over his bag, Chihiro awkwardly tells Yamada to not talk too much with Adachi, hinting at his jealousy. She teases him by asking why, but Chihiro doesn't have an answer for her. Over several weeks, Yamada helps Ichikawa with various tasks like eating lunch, reading books, and taking notes. Chihiro thinks about how he's not really used to the way Yamada does things. One day in class, he overhears Adachi and some other guys talking about a magazine. Adachi, always the joker, guesses it's about some racing event. But another student corrects him, saying it's actually an idol magazine featuring Yamada, which makes Adachi super excited to see her pictures. He's surprised to find Yamada in the magazine and wonders why she's there, given she's a model. Chihiro explains that besides modeling, Yamada has been on various TV shows and movies, probably because her agency encouraged it. The boys start speculating whether Yamada is trying to become an idol, making Chihiro realize she never mentioned any of this to him. Adachi then starts to wonder aloud how Yamada would look in a swimsuit, but he quickly stops himself when she walks by. Later, Yamada asks Chihiro what he was chatting about with Adachi and the others. Chihiro brushes it off as just guy stuff, which makes Yamada think they were discussing typical boyish topics. Later, the pair go to a convenience store, where Yamada excitedly shows Chihiro a magazine with her in it. She starts telling him about her experiences working with the company and their staff, but then she hesitates, worried that Chihiro might feel uncomfortable. But Chihiro, always supportive, tells her he likes her just the way she is, especially when she's being genuine and honest. Happy to hear this, Yamada buys some of the magazines for Chihiro, and they leave the store together. As Chihiro and Yamada walk together, Chihiro contemplates asking her about her work as an idol to understand her better. However, he hesitates to bring it up. Yamada then shows him more pictures from the magazine, curious to know which one he likes the most. Chihiro, trying to be diplomatic, says he doesn't particularly like any of them but admits that she looks very different in the magazine compared to her usual self. Yamada catches on that Chihiro must have seen the magazine before, and he confirms it, mentioning that his sister had brought it home the previous day. Yamada then opens up about how her life as an idol feels different compared to her regular life, but she confesses that she enjoys the change. In their home economics class, Yamada struggles with a simple task, breaking eggs, and she ends up making a mess. Meanwhile, Hara engages Chihiro in conversation, asking about his plans for the winter break. Chihiro humorously mentions going to his hometown and then the incident of breaking his hand. When Hara poses the same question to Yamada, she lists several activities, including spending Christmas Eve with Chihiro. Yamada turns the question back to Hara, who shares that she and Kanzaki plan to visit a shrine. However, she feels awkward about it since Kanzaki has grown out his sideburns, making her unsure how to act around him. She seeks advice from Yamada, who, after a glance at Chihiro, admits she doesn't have much experience in romantic matters. Suddenly, the home economics teacher enters and instructs everyone to tuck their bangs under their bandanas. Chihiro, still hindered by his injured hand, struggles with this task. Yamada steps in to help, chuckling at his appearance as she adjusts his bandana. Hara, observing this interaction, senses there's something special between them. Later, Chihiro, Yamada, Hara, Adachi, and another classmate gather to sample the food they've prepared in class. As Yamada is about to try Adachi's dish, Chihiro impulsively grabs it and tastes it first, assuring Adachi that it's delicious. This playful act catches Hara's attention, and she notices Chihiro's keychain falling to the ground. She picks it up and hands it to him, prompting Yamada to comment on its cuteness. Before Hara can delve deeper into the keychain's significance, Kanzaki joins them, shifting her focus away from Chihiro and Yamada. In the library, Chihiro sits lost in thought, wondering if Hara has caught on to the special bond he shares with Yamada. He ponders how Yamada might react if Hara starts asking about their relationship. While helping Chihiro, Yamada ends up dozing off. She wakes up and apologizes, something Chihiro notices she does quite often. Wanting to cheer her up, Chihiro decides to show her a photo of his sister from her coming-of-age ceremony. Then, he shares a picture of a snowy landscape he had taken, fulfilling a request Yamada had made back in Season 1. However, he accidentally lets slip that this was the place where he broke his arm, which makes Yamada feel sad once more. Chihiro quickly tries to lighten the mood, explaining that his fall was just due to his own carelessness. They leave the library together, but the atmosphere between them is a bit strained. The next day, Chihiro finds himself thinking about Yamada and why she hasn't been keeping in touch with him as much. Meanwhile, Moko, Serena, and Kai approach Chihiro with concerns about Yamada's recent odd behavior. Just as they're discussing this, Yamada walks into the class and greets everyone but soon realizes she's misplaced her keychain. Chihiro is torn about whether he should offer his keychain to her. At the same time, an announcement comes from Kintaro's teacher about an early end to the lecture due to upcoming bad weather. Later, near the lockers, Chihiro bumps into Hara and Kanzaki. Hara mentions how upset Yamada is about losing her keychain, and Chihiro, realizing how important it is to her, decides to leave school and search for it. As he's looking for the keychain on the way to school, Moko spots him and points out he's searching in the wrong area. She directs him to where he's more likely to find it. During his search, Chihiro unexpectedly runs into Yamada. It turns out Moko had sent her a photo of Chihiro looking for something. Yamada, teary-eyed, tells Chihiro that she searched her house but couldn't find the keychain. Just as she's about to break down even more, Chihiro spots her keychain hanging from a tree branch. He retrieves it and hands it over to her, to which she expresses her deep gratitude. Then, as Chihiro sneezes from the cold, Yamada, concerned for his health, surprisingly invites him over to her place to warm up, leaving Chihiro in utter shock. Inside Yamada's place, she starts the bath with their smart home system, playfully copying its robotic voice. Ichikawa, a bit amused, asks her about her folks, learning they're at work. As she dries his hair with a towel, she questions why impersonating the voice is wrong, then suddenly feels a bit self-conscious about her actions and suggests he dry off himself. Ichikawa heads into the bathroom, trying to stay relaxed. Yamada checks on him from outside, and he lies about already being in the bath, quickly undresses, and hops in. Inside, he curiously glances around, perhaps looking for personal items of Yamada's, but decides against it. Just as he's about to get out, Yamada, standing at the door, surprises him, making him submerge again. She's brought him clothes to change into, leaving him with her school sports outfit but forgetting his underwear. Feeling awkward, he dresses and tries to leave unnoticed but runs into Wataru, their dog. Yamada, entering the scene, offers him a choice between two hot pot flavors. Picking one, Ichikawa muses on his precarious situation, likened to being among sharks. As he walks away, Wataru playfully tugs at his pants, almost causing an embarrassing scene, but Yamada quickly fixes the situation, leading to a funny moment between them, Ichikawa, and the dog. Emerging in a bear-themed hoodie, Yamada explains it was a gift. At dinner, she mentions making hot pot when alone, suggesting they share one sometimes. The conversation shifts to her graduation album, revealing candid shots of her eating. Ichikawa's curiosity then turns to a piano in the room, leading to a discussion about her past hobbies, from piano to kendo, and her tendency to quit when others outperformed her. Yamada reflects on her fear of becoming a burden or disliked, tearing up. She recalls a recent silence from Ichikawa, wondering if she had been annoying. In a comforting gesture, Ichikawa hugs her, apologizing for his own fears and distancing. Later, they share a hot pot, continuing their conversation, now closer than before. Inside Yamada's apartment, Ichikawa comments on how Yamada seems to be acting more like an adult. but quickly notes that being grown up isn't always as great as it seems. She agrees, laughing at the thought. Then, Yamada remembers she hasn't checked her phone in a while, and discovers messages from her mom, who said she was near the convenience store 12 minutes ago. Suddenly, they hear the sound of the lock turning. It's Yamada's mom trying to get in from the chilly outside. Sani, Yamada's mom, enters and announces she's back. Seeing an extra pair of shoes, she curiously asks if Yamada has a guest. Yamada quickly says her friend Kai is over. Ichikawa starts to worry about the situation he's found himself in. Yamada tries to calm him, saying she often has friends over, but when he asks if she ever has boys over, she says no. Realizing the awkwardness, she pulls him into her room and shuts the door. Outside, Sani notices the uneaten hot pot and questions it. Yamada covers up by saying she made it for herself and suggests her mom take a warm bath. Hearing this, Ichikawa thinks this might be his chance to leave unnoticed. Sani mentions Yamada's dad will be home soon and heads for the bath, allowing Yamada to return to her room with Ichikawa, who's visibly worried at the mention of her dad coming home. They both sit on her bed, and Ichikawa nervously asks about her dad's personality. Yamada, looking at him, says her dad and Ichikawa are quite alike. Just then, Sani bursts into the room, making a beeline for the bed to ask Ichikawa about any allergies and if it was all right for her to have some of the hot pot. Yamada quickly tries to cover up the situation by saying she had most of the hot pot herself. Ichikawa then tries to sound like Kai, apologizing for being there. Sani seems to believe them and leaves. Afterward, Ichikawa feels bad that Yamada had to lie because of him. He notices a bottle of royal milk tea on her windowsill, but before he can say anything, Yamada playfully tackles him onto her bed. She jokingly says she's getting back at him for a previous prank, admitting this is the first time she's kept a secret from her mom. She then gets off him, claiming she's grown up now. Ichikawa, embarrassed, points out how she still refers to herself in the third person, which makes her blush. He begs her to keep this event just between them. After the visit, Yamada sees Ichikawa out, lending him a coat for the cold. He decides to call his parents for a pickup from a nearby convenience store, and heads for the elevator, tired from the day's events. He muses on how Sani's personality contrasts with her appearance. As the elevator doors open, Ichikawa is met by a towering man in a chef's apron, looking down at him. Feeling overwhelmed by the man's size, Ichikawa hurries out, intimidated. The man watches him leave, and Ichikawa promises himself never to revisit such an intimidating place as Yamada's high-rise apartment. In his room, Ichikawa gets a talk from Lucifer Nagurakawa about how much he's progressed in his relationship with Yamada by simply visiting her. Ichikawa tries to downplay it, insisting Yamada sees him just like any other friend. He's puzzled by the fine line between friendship and something more. Heading out, Ichikawa bikes to school, realizing his cast is gone but something's off with his voice. At school, he runs into Yamada and Chai. Chai comments on his arm being better, and Yamada, pulling Chai aside, says she noticed it first. Chai then tells a funny story about Yamada, which Yamada quickly corrects. Ichikawa reacts with a lukewarm "that's nice," making Chai laugh at his usual demeanor. Yamada checks on his arm, and he admits he's still not up for heavy lifting. Later, Yamada texts him in class, suggesting they can keep things low-key but asks for eye contact at least. He looks back at her, making her smile. Ichikawa thinks the issue goes beyond just looking at each other. They meet in the library, where he confesses his voice issue. Yamada worries it's a cold, but he explains it's just changing. To divert her concern, he has her compare his arms, leading to an awkward but revealing moment. Yamada gets excited thinking about his changes, like a deeper voice, which makes Ichikawa reflect on their relationship and his own fears of growing up. She imagines all sorts of changes for him, missing the point of his concern but showing her attention to his details. She then looks forward to hearing his deeper voice regularly, but their close moment makes her step back, embarrassed. Nigorikawa appears, nudging Ichikawa to take a step forward in their relationship, but they both shy away. Back in class, Moko excitedly counts down to Valentine's Day, sparking thoughts on what they should do next. Yamada, the school's favorite girl, suggests they should bond with the younger female students by sharing their love for sweets and taking a stroll around the school on a special day. Moko loves the idea, especially the part about making chocolates, and decides they should prepare some for the younger students and all the boys too. Yamada is on board with the plan and offers her house as the place for their chocolate-making session, inviting everyone, including Ichikawa, the emo boy. On the appointed day, Ichikawa heads over to Yamada's place, where he runs into Serena and Kai. Kai's curiosity about his presence flusters him, and he leaves, thinking Yamada didn't really invite him despite her message urging him to be ready for the day. Moko finds him outside, confused and about to leave. She drags him back, reminding him of their conversation at the family restaurant during New Year's and possibly hinting at their friendship. Back at Yamada's, she greets them while munching on a chocolate bar. Inside, Moko quietly cautions Ichikawa about Yamada's strict mother. When Yamada's mom meets them, she's puzzled to see a boy among her daughter's friends and questions how Ichikawa knows Yamada. To avoid any trouble, Moko quickly claims Ichikawa is her boyfriend, surprising everyone in the room. Inside Yamada's place, Ichikawa struggles with his apron, and Yamada steps in to help. Her mom, Sani, watches curiously, causing Yamada to step back, and then Moko takes over. Sani inquires about their relationship, prompting Yamada to ask her mom to leave them be. Moko, half-jokingly, suggests brainwashing Sani to stop the questions about her and Ichikawa. She then starts bossing Ichikawa around, irritating Yamada with how close she's acting. Serena, seeing the tension their fibs are causing, slams the table, declaring their plan isn't working. Feeling uncomfortable, Ichikawa decides to wash dishes, and Yamada joins him, questioning if he's enjoying himself with a sour expression. Confused, Ichikawa retreats to the bathroom to think, where he encounters Nigorikawa, who advises him to clear up the misunderstanding with Yamada's mom or risk being permanently labeled as Moko's boyfriend. On his way out, Sani stops him, asking if he's leaving. Recalling Nigorikawa's advice, Ichikawa confesses to Sani that he and Moko aren't a couple, then steps outside, pondering on hope and self-belief. As he leans against the door, Sani opens it, recognizing him as Ichikawa, revealing she's met his mother before and knows Yamada talks about him often. Yamada rushes out, urging him to stay, which he agrees to after she playfully tackles him. He explains his earlier silence, saying he feared immediate denial would lead to his departure. Returning inside, they find the girls shocked by a man instructing them on chocolate making. Yamada introduces him as her dad, a chef specializing in French cuisine. Ichikawa remembers meeting him in the elevator, feeling intimidated but hoping he's not remembered. However, her dad, Yuki, spots Ichikawa, unsettling him further. Yuki then asks if Ichikawa likes games, leading to an awkward bonding session over video games. Sani apologizes for her husband's lack of boundaries, explaining no one else in the family plays games. Yamada, wanting to join in, claims she can play too, taking the controller and sitting close to Ichikawa. Suddenly, Moko comes in and spots Ichikawa and Yamada close together, prompting Yamada to quickly step away. Moko teasingly asks Ichikawa if he's emitting some kind of special charm, which he denies. She comments that a chef living in a fancy apartment should look more impressive, but her opinion shifts to admiration when Yuki stylishly moves his hair aside. After finishing the chocolates, all the girls, excited, bring some to Yuki's room to share. Seizing the moment, Yamada pulls Ichikawa aside, hiding behind a curtain, and shares a piece of chocolate with him. He finds it tasty but a bit too sweet for him. Yamada is just happy he's there, playfully picking a crumb from his face and eating it. Leaving Yamada's place, Ichikawa, Moko, and Serena walk home together. Serena questions how Ichikawa knew his way around Yamada's apartment so well, hinting they might be dating. Moko jumps on this, but Ichikawa quickly clarifies it was just a brief visit. He thanks them for the day, and although Moko brushes it off, Serena warns him not to get too comfortable around them. Back home, Kana, Ichikawa's sister, is shocked to hear he made chocolate at Yamada's and teases him about creating his harem. Ichikawa's phone rings, and he rushes to his room, where Yamada is on the line, asking about his day and specifically about her parents. Ichikawa was surprised to find that Yamada's parents were much nicer than he thought they'd be, not at all like the strict, intimidating figures he had imagined. Yamada mentioned that her dad asked for Ichikawa's friend code for games, hinting he'd like Ichikawa to come over again. After wishing each other goodnight, Ichikawa chats with his sister, who unexpectedly asks if he plans to confess his feelings to Yamada. This question makes him choke on his drink. He admits to his sister that he's unsure about confessing because he doubts Yamada's feelings for him and his own self-confidence. His sister tries to reassure him, pointing out he's still young and many things in his life and feelings towards Yamada will evolve. Ichikawa, however, is certain about one thing: his feelings for Yamada will remain unchanged. Despite fearing that Yamada, being popular and from a different social circle, might forget him if she moved away, his affection for her stays strong, leading him to wish he could be her boyfriend. The following day, while riding his bike, Ichikawa encounters Yamada. She wonders aloud if she should distribute chocolates to all the boys, prompting Ichikawa to impulsively ask her not to, visibly surprising her. Yet, she agrees to his request. This brings an end to our episode. If you enjoyed it, then don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more anime recaps.